So then I changed into my uniform and started my day for actual work instead of going to the gym that day.
So you actually have a block of time that just, you have no idea what happened.
Gone.
Sounds like alien abduction.
There you go. I like that one. We're going to go with that. Alien abduction.
Do you want to be part of the podcast? Go to shanesbraindomain.com and click on the Aphantasia section. There you will find a question or prompt and an opportunity to contribute your thoughts and experiences. Simply record and submit your response, and you could be featured on a future episode. Aphantasia is a condition characterized by an inability to visualize mental images in one's mind. If you have just discovered that you or someone you love has aphantasia, or if you're just fascinated by the subject in general and love learning more about it, you are in the right place. The Discovering Your Mind podcast delves into all aspects of the mind's eye, including aphantasia, hyperphantasia, and everything in between. Welcome to the Discovering Your Mind podcast, brought to you by shanesbraindomain.com. I am your host, Shane Williams, also known as Shane's Brain. And today we're talking with the one and only Michael Nielsen, who is my brother-in-law. Welcome to the show, Michael. How you doing?
I am good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Just to get started here, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you do for a living?
So currently, I am a training manager for the government. It's a government contract here in Maryland. I currently review policies, procedures. I develop robust training plans for the government. We support White House delegates, senior leaderships, the vice president, all these senior leaders. They think they're important, and basically they deal with those. We deal with those high those aircraft that they fly on, and then they go everywhere, all that stuff like that. It's a high stress job, so I deal with that all the time.
All right. What about your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun?
I think I'm a very creative person. I like to just do stuff with my hands, create things.
In this episode, we will be referring to what we call the Apple graph. If you would like to view the Apple graph to play along and better understand what we're talking about, you can find it on shanesbraindomain.com in the Aphantasia and Beyond section. If you are unable to view the Apple graph for whatever reason, it is a graph divided into 6 sections. In the number 6 section, there is a very detailed image of a red apple. In the number 5 section, it is the same image but with less detail. Number 4 is still in color but has less detail and more basic shapes instead of detailed hues and gradients. Number 3 is the less detailed apple but in gray tones without the color. Number 2 is a simple outline of the apple. And number 1 is blank, indicating no visualization whatsoever. This is called aphantasia. All right, let's dive in here. The first thing I would like you to do is visualize a red apple in your mind.
Okay.
And give me a second here. I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, go ahead and tell me which one of those apples best represents what you saw in your mind's eye.
I would say probably number 4.
Okay, very cool. Can you elaborate on that at all?
I didn't really see the details. I just saw the red apple. I have a hard time with details when it comes to just the initial visualization. Like I said, I like to design things. I like to be creative, but it takes me a while to be creative and make that design from the start to the finish.
Okay. If you gave it more time, could you add more detail to it? Could you get it more detailed if you tried?
Sure. Oh, sure. I could put more detail on it. I could change the color. I could slice it if I need to. But initially, a red apple, I would see it as just as a picture, and it would be just right there. And all I would see is one color, and that's it.
All right.
I know you've heard of aphantasia before. You want to tell us a little bit about how you found out about it and what you know about it?
I really found out about aphantasia when you were doing your podcast, and it was so interesting to me because when I found out about this, it was so insightful of how everyone communicates so differently. And it was amazing how, when you find out how people think, how people react to different things, how do I say it? It makes people understand people differently. My supervisors throughout, so I retired in the military. And once I started looking into aphantasia, it brought a different perspective to how I was going through my life. And I wish I would have thought about it or came across aphantasia or the philosophy of aphantasia a little bit sooner, because it would have helped how I went through the military. They think about something so different than I do.
It's one of those things where, in general, we kind of know, we're all different or unique, in a general way. But sometimes we forget about the specifics. And the aphantasia and the things we talked about on this podcast, I think really just shine that bright light on we are 100% unique. And I agree. I think it does help us understand other people, be more patient with other people. And I really do think it can have a positive effect on relationships.
I think so, because you have to have that relationship with not just a relationship with a couple, but you have to have that relationship with a coworker, a supervisor, anybody that you are in communication with.
All right. We're just going to ask you some questions here to figure out more about your mind. We got a little snapshot with that apple, but we're going to delve into it some more. So next, I'd like you to visualize a chicken in your mind. Is it like looking at a picture or more of just a thought or something else?
I would say it's more of a thought. It can be a picture.
Okay. How would you separate those two? How would you define a thought and how would you define a picture, and how are they different?
When I think about things, everything first initially comes as a thought to me. First, I have to think about things. I then can visualize it. I am a individual that doesn't have a lot of pictures floating around in my head.
Okay.
I'm so glad that I can see, because I don't have a lot of pictures in my head. I wouldn't know what something looks like unless I've seen it before.
So initially it was a thought. Can you get it to a picture? Can you get to the point where you can see a picture?
Totally, 100%. Because I've seen a chicken before.
Okay. So the chicken that you are visualizing, is it in color or is it in black and white?
It's in color. I can make it black and white.
Okay. Would you say the colors are vibrant or are they more muted?
Muted. I would say muted.
Is the image 2D or 3D?
For the most part, they're 2D, but I can visualize some 3D.
Okay.
I think most of my images are 2D.
Okay. So if you can get to 3D, is it something like where you could just rotate it and see it from all angles? Can you ever do that in your mind?
Yes, but it's very, very, very difficult. And I have to have my eyes open.
Okay. Can you visualize with your eyes closed at all?
If I close my eyes, it's dark.
So you can only do it with your eyes open.
For a couple moments, I can do it with my eyes closed if I'm just thinking about that one item.
And does it disappear after a couple seconds?
After a few moments, yeah. I've been a part of conversations and they have you do these relaxation exercises, and they're like, okay, everyone close their eyes and you are going to go through this relaxation exercise and we're going to bing this bell and we're going to have you, and I can't do it because I can't imagine it. So I have to keep my eyes open.
Right.
when they're doing it, just to have these relaxation exercises.
Yeah.
And
that kind of stuff happens all the time, because all the people who are doing these things, they think everybody's the same. And so however they do it, they tell everyone else to do it the same way.
Right.
Was the image still, or was there any movement?
There can be movement, because I've seen it, like, so we're talking about a chicken. I've seen a chicken run around like a field or like a pen or whatnot. So that's where I can see movement.
Can you manipulate the image? Like, can you make the chicken fly?
Unless I've seen a chicken fly, I can't manipulate the chicken to make it fly.
Would you say you see the chicken in your mind, or is it more like it's projected out in front of you?
I would say I see it in my mind.
Is the image solid or transparent?
I would say more transparent. So I can make it solid, but it's mostly transparent. So in my room that I'm in right now, I can see the wall, I can see the TV, or I can see the items that I'm seeing in the room. But I can also, if you ask me to see a chicken or an object, I can see that in the middle of the room. But I can see the background, or I can see the chicken wandering around, so I can see through that also.
Can you put a vest and a tie on the chicken?
I can. It's kind of silly looking. I'm trying to put a vest on it. Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting, because before it kind of sounded like if you hadn't seen it before, you couldn't really do it, like you couldn't make the chicken fly. So how can you put a vest and a tie on it? Have you ever seen a chicken with a vest and a tie on?
So no. But like we talked about the apple, right? It was red, and that's it. But the more we're talking about this chicken, it's still out there in front of me, and I'm manipulating that conversation, and I'm manipulating that chicken more and more and more, and it's still there.
So the more
I'm putting more and more
and more effort into it, you're starting to have a little bit more abilities than you had it earlier.
Correct.
Okay. Very cool. All right. What about sound? If it made a sound, could you hear it in your mind?
Nope. It's quiet.
Okay.
Nope.
I'm going to ask you to visualize some animals that you probably are not familiar with. So I'm going to ask you to visualize it, and then just describe in the best way you can what it looks like in your mind. Okay?
Got it.
All right. Visualize a leafy sea dragon.
I'm thinking it's going to be something in the water, like a sea dragon. So like a sea urchin kind of in the water, like a little tiny, like a seahorse kind of looking thing. So
okay. All right. Visualize a lilac-breasted roller.
So something purple with round, that's round, or that rolls around.
And that's all you got? Is it?
That's all. Like
you actually got an image though?
No.
Okay. When you were describing the others, were those just thought-based too, or did you see images?
Thought-based.
Okay. So yeah, that's an interesting thing that we need to decipher with you, is when you're just describing things using your thoughts, or if you're actually seeing images. So if you could try and specify that as we continue to talk, I think that's an interesting distinction to make.
It starts as a thought, and then I start putting color, and I start putting my interpretation to it, so that I can design something around it. So I can make my interpretation. So I can make my colors, and I can put my spin on anything that I want it to be in my mind.
Okay. So it sounds like we're almost, in a way, going too fast. You know what I mean? Because I'm used to a lot of people where I ask them something and it's instant. It's right there. They see it in great detail. And it sounds like, yeah, it's so much more of a slow process for you.
And that's where I've found, when I really found out about aphantasia, that I really had a problem when it came to talking with people in the military and in meetings, they wanted a response.
Right. I struggle with
This fast. I'm an instructor. I teach all of the time. But when you pause for a second, people think it's 2 or 4 minutes, and they're like, why aren't you talking? And I'm like, because my brain is processing either that next word or what that next color or that next design is going to be.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And for those of you listening who are curious to what the actual creatures look like, Google it. All right, we're going to move on to sequence visualization. So now I would like you to visualize an automobile accident.
Okay, I got one.
Is it visual?
It is visual.
Okay, let me ask you this. You said earlier that most of it's based on something you've seen before. So with those animals, obviously you were just trying to pull from nowhere, right? But with an automobile accident, you've probably seen one before or been involved in one before. So is that why it was quicker and easier for you to bring it up, you think?
I've had an accident before, or I've been in an accident before. It was easier to recall. And those words were a little bit better to recall,
right,
or faster to recall.
Okay. Do you know how many automobiles are involved in the accident?
I've been a part of so many accidents. I've not been a part of the accidents. I've seen so many accidents. It's hard to decipher which accident I'm thinking about. It's hard to zero in on one specific accident. So if you just say car accident, it's like a one of those picture Rolodex thing. Oh, I get like a slideshow. I can go from slideshow to slideshow to slideshow to slideshow. I can see those accidents just in my mind and see those accidents just as a picture going past on the screen in front of me.
Did they go past one at a time?
I can make them go past one at a time, and I can stop and I can visualize that accident for a second and then go to the next one. So Talking about car accident, how many? That one had 2, that one had 4. It's interesting because I can see the accident, but I can't see all of the details of the accident. I was talking to someone I was working with, and I asked them that same question about a car accident and how they think about a car accident. And this was about 2 weeks ago. And he goes, I can think about every single detail all the way down to when my wife hit a rock, fell out of the car and hit her head on a rock, and how I felt. And he's relaying this story to me of how I felt all the way down to when she hit her head. And I can still feel that pain and whatnot. And I'm like, I can't understand that feeling. And he goes, I can smell it. I can get everything she was wearing. And I was like, I've lost all of that.
So what does the image you're looking at look like if the details aren't there? Is it just like a very basic outline or a drawing? Like, what is it?
It's more like just a memory.
Okay, so the picture that you visualize is very incomplete. Is that a good way to say it?
That would be how I would put it, is incomplete.
Did the sequence, the car accident, did it appear as like a video in your mind or something else?
So I would say if something appears in my mind, such as a car accident, such as anything in my mind, it would be considered as a video.
Read the book that inspired this podcast, Aphantasia and Beyond, available on shanesbraindomain.com and Amazon. Okay, now I want you to visualize any room at all.
Okay.
Can you zoom outside the room to visualize the entire exterior of the building?
Yes.
What about the entire neighborhood?
It's getting a little tough, but yeah, I can.
Okay, what
It
about
takes a
the
little bit
entire
longer.
city?
No. Neighborhood and then city gets a little, I can't. That gets to like a map. I'm on a map and it's a pencil drawing or whatever. And there's a dot where I'm at.
So the farther out you go, the detail really disappears.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now visualize 3 dots, 3 blue dots.
3 blue dots. Got them.
Okay. Now visualize 9 blue dots.
Okay. Okay.
Now visualize 100 blue dots.
Mm-mm.
I lose you?
You lost me because I'm trying to count them all.
Right.
I lost it. I got
Okay.
9, but you lost, and then I'm losing the 9. I keep trying to go back to then because they start floating away. I'm like, wait, I'm trying to catch the 9. It's like the sheep running away or something, or the wait, you're supposed to stay in the pen.
All right. So we have already established that effort plays a role in how well you can visualize something. We've also established that when you close your eyes, you see darkness, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
It is dark, and I do not see anything. If it's really, really light, if I'm outside and the sun is shining, I'll see some light. If I'm in a bright room, I will see some light.
Can you think of nothing if you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got nothing.
Can you describe what that's like?
I can totally turn off my mind. It's worse than finding the end of the internet because it's like it comes to the thing and says you found the end of the internet, and I'm like, now I found the end of my brain. It's like a sign that comes up and says you found the end of my brain. What?
Okay. So
I don't understand.
So is that something that just kind of happens naturally, or is that something you have control of?
I have control of that.
Okay, so if you've had a long day or whatever, and you say, I just want to turn my brain off and just zone out, think about nothing, you can choose to do that.
Yes, but it's really, really hard to zone out because of some of the stress, some of the things that I've had in my life, the trauma, the things with the military that I've had. When I found out about aphantasia and working and learning about the different things in my mind that goes on in my mind, going through some therapy and going through some of the things, I've learned about how to turn off my mind. And when I found out about turning off my mind, I'm like, okay, and it's the end. Click.
That's pretty cool.
And it's done. And then because I have to set an alarm on my watch to make sure I come back.
Can you visualize to the extent that it completely takes you out of your reality?
I have once, and it freaked me out so much that I never wanted to do it again. This was when I was in the military, and my task or my normal day, I would leave work. I would have my bag packed to go to the gym, and I would go to the gym, or I would leave work and I would go to the gym, work out, and then I would get ready at the gym and go to work. Well, one day I left home and I showed up at work in my gym clothes instead of at the gym. And I got to my office and I'm like, how did I get here? I don't even remember leaving my home and getting to work. And I was like, freaked me out so much that I was like, I can't do this. because I don't remember, because I didn't know how I even drove there, because getting on an Air Force base or a military base, you have to show an ID. You have to talk to so many people just to get into an installation. And so I was just like, how did I get here? I had to drive 30 miles and I don't remember even going through a stoplight. I must have got here safely because my car's out here and I'm not injured. I opened up the door. I unlocked my office. So then I changed into my uniform and started my day for actual work instead of going to the gym that day.
So you actually have a block of time that just, you have no idea what happened.
Gone.
Sounds like alien abduction.
There you go. I like that one. We're going to go with that. Alien abduction.
When it comes to mind visualization, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does it resemble reality?
I would say in the 8 or 9. I mean, reality, I mean, as long as YouTube and whatever's reality, I mean, then it's...
Is it like actual seeing? Like it sounded like when you were talking about the apple wasn't super realistic.
It wasn't. Right? Until I can put detail onto it. Like I said, I can add detail to it. Like I can cut it in half. I can change the color to green. I can change it and now it's moldy.
Okay. Could you do weird things like in your imagination? Could you like, you got the apple there. Could you shrink yourself down to be the same size as the apple? And then like take a little axe or a knife or something and chop into the apple and see what it looks like inside the apple or anything like that?
Yes, this brings me into more like video of thinking about like what I've seen in videos that I've seen or movies that I've seen where they've shrunk a person down. Let's just go with what, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or whatever, right? Okay, we've shrunk ourselves down with a shrink ray, and now I'm the same size of the apple.
Okay,
and I've got this big knife, and I'm cutting into it.
Okay, so would you say that you're creating unique and novel images when you're doing that, or are you more just falling back upon similar things that you've seen before?
I would say I'm falling back on similar things that I've seen.
All right. Let's talk about mind audio a little bit more. Would you say you have an inner voice?
I think I do have an inner voice.
Okay. Can you describe it? What does that mean to you?
So I think my inner voice yells at me a lot, trying to tell me like, you need to say this, you need to say this. But you know, people think of you as like, oh, you're a stutterer, you're a person that can't speak right, and then they want that. You know, why aren't you coming up with a word, or why aren't you coming up with the correct thing? Like I don't understand, or they don't understand.
Okay, so that inner voice, would you say you hear it? Is it like hearing it, and is it in your voice?
I think it's, like I said, I think it's yelling at me. Say this, but it's everyone else yelling in my head. I can hear your voice in my head.
Okay.
I can hear everyone else's voice yelling in my head. I can hear my supervisor's voice yelling in my head. When you say inner voice, I think I have everyone's inner voice in me, and they're just constantly talking.
So do you play out conversations in your mind?
I do.
Would you say there's always something audible going on in your mind? Does your mind ever shut up?
So my mind does shut up, and I can turn it off. Like I said, I can get to the end of the internet, right? I have to actually go and say, okay, I'm going to the end, and say, well, we have to stop.
All right. So when it comes to mind audio on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does that resemble reality? How much is it like actual hearing?
I would probably put it at maybe 3 or 4.
All right. I want you to visualize that you are at a movie theater concession stand and they hand you a big tub of freshly popped buttery popcorn.
Yes. Okay.
Can you smell it in your mind?
Yes.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how much is it like actual smelling?
Relying on my memory of what it smells like, I can smell it a 1 to 10. I would probably put it in the 8 or 9 range.
Really? If you imagine smelling that popcorn and you're visualizing the popcorn, can you change the smell so that when you smell the popcorn, you smell bacon instead in your mind?
No, I cannot, because it never smells like bacon. It goes away really, really quick. You asked me to visualize it, and I can smell, like, as they put that popcorn, I'm at that concession stand and they put that popcorn in front of me and I'm like, okay. And it's gone. The smell is gone that fast as I'm visualizing it right now.
Okay. So now do that same thing with taste. Can you taste it?
No. Thinking about it, I can't taste it, but I can feel it. I can feel it in my mouth.
Okay. So with the touch, how strong is that? If you were able to rank, like, can you feel it in your fingers, feel it in your mouth? Can you rank that on a scale from 1 to 10?
So I can feel it, like grabbing it out of the bowl. I would say 7 to 8. I can actually, because I'm picturing myself like watching a movie or whatever, and I'm like, I can actually visualize me actually eating popcorn or chips, or but I can't taste anything.
In this episode, we will be referring to the carnival picture. If you would like to view the carnival picture to play along and better understand what we're talking about, you can find it at shanesbraindomain.com in the Aphantasia section. If you are unable to view the carnival picture, it is a picture of a carnival at dusk with bright lights adorning carnival games and rides, including a large Ferris wheel, with many people walking around.
All right. Do you have that carnival picture that I sent you?
I do.
Can you put yourself in that picture?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. In what way? Is it like you can see yourself in the picture, or is it more like you're there experiencing it?
Kind of like entering into that picture.
So can you walk around and explore?
Not really. I guess really no, I can't put myself into that picture, because I'm more like entering in, and it kind of pushes away as I try and enter into it. Like I can see the carnival rides and the items, they'll pass by me, but I can walk through it. If that makes any sense? I can't see me, but like I'm walking through the carnival.
So can you feel the night air or experience the temperature of the setting?
No. Can
you experience any of the sounds?
Just by like experience, but it's very, very fleeting. I can hear it like very little bit.
Okay.
Like I'll hear it for a second and then it goes away.
Can you experience any of the smells?
I think because it's so much, it's all over the place. So I would say not really, because it's like there's so many different. I can't pinpoint something.
Okay. What about emotions? Do you feel any emotions that you might feel at a carnival?
I think the emotion is there's just a lot of people, and I'm trying to get through the crowd as I kind of go through to get to the other side.
Can you purchase a cotton candy and taste it?
I wouldn't be able to taste it in my mind, and I can't see where the cotton candy thing is, so no.
Can you ride the Ferris wheel?
Nope.
So
I can watch it go around.
So you can see some movement in it.
I can see some movement, and I can see the flag moving.
Okay.
But and the reason why I can see movement is because, again, I've been to something and it's an experience of
right.
past movement and seen that kind of environment before.
Okay. All right. So out of the 5 senses that we've talked about, which one is the most prominent or powerful in your mind?
I would say hearing is
Really?
probably, I don't, I would think that my sight and hearing is probably the highest.
So what I'm getting from you is you're kind of all over the place with all of the senses, depending on circumstances, right? I ask you about one thing and you're having a completely different experience if I ask you about a different thing. And that's with all your senses, it seems like. It seems like they're kind of all very dependent and kind of all over the place depending on the circumstance. All right, we're going to talk about reading. When you read a novel, what? You hate reading?
I hate it. I hate reading. But go ahead.
No, that's interesting. Let's talk about it. So when you read a novel, is it like a movie in your mind or something else?
It would be like a movie because I don't read. I listen to it on a podcast, or I listen to it in headphones. So when I read, I listen to it. So it's a movie to me.
You can visualize it pretty good. Like, how well do you visualize the characters and the surroundings?
I can visualize it a little bit. It's quite interesting because I am listening to a book, but I only visualize it for a few moments.
Say it's a book that's never been made into a movie or anything, so you have to rely on your own mind to create these things. Do you like create characters and know what they look like and see the color of their hair or the strands of their hair, or is it very much more vague than that?
I would visualize what they look like in my mind. So like I would put gray hair on someone, or if they were like, oh, he's masculine, or I would make him look whatever in my mind, or her, or I would, if they were saying, yeah, it's an alien, I would make it look like an alien that I think what an alien looks like, or a purple people eater. I would make it look like whatever I think is in my mind.
When you're listening to a book or reading a book, do you hear the sounds of voices in your mind?
I do.
Why do you like listening to audiobooks more than reading if you're going to read a novel?
I have found that books are boring. It takes too long to flip through books. I would rather watch the video or listen to it because I can visualize things a lot better as someone says something.
Right.
So again,
okay. You said that you can't visualize much with your eyes closed. Do you think that reading a book has a similar effect on your ability to visualize because you're so focused on reading the words themselves and looking at a physical thing that may be a block to visualizing?
I think that might be a block that I have is visualizing. So again, when I look at the instructions and I really have to concentrate on the things that I'm reading at work, because that's my job right now, is I have to concentrate on those things, the instructions and such that I'm doing, to make sure that I'm getting them correctly. But I think I do have a block when it comes to reading and visualizing what is going on in that story. So that's why I watch videos and I listen to podcasts and I listen to books on video or books on tape.
Right, because it kind of frees that. You don't have to focus on something. It frees up the visualization. That makes sense.
Yep.
Hey, here's a shout out to David H., who donated to the podcast and shared this message. He writes, I discovered aphantasia at the age of 59 and I was shocked. Now I'm trying to work out how to improve my life with this knowledge. Your podcasts and specific questions have really opened my eyes to how others experience things. I hope to use this knowledge to improve communication with others. Yes, David, I have found that one of the best ways to further understand what aphantasia is to further understand what it is not. Thank you so much for listening and contributing.
What do you do to fall asleep?
It takes me about 45 minutes to fall asleep. So I will have to watch a video. Actually, that's funny, as I have to watch a video. I don't know if you've ever heard of Darman. He has these videos that he plays, Darman videos. And I watch these random videos, and I watch these silly videos of things that are either random acts of kindness or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And I watch it for 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm like, and I fall asleep.
When you said when you close your eyes, you don't visualize much. So when you close your eyes to go to sleep, you pretty much see darkness. Is your mind pretty quiet at that point?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet at that time. Sometimes I'll like, it'll be like, okay, why aren't you shutting off? And then I gotta like, I'll start thinking about stuff, but I won't see anything.
Okay. And you think those videos probably just help let your mind just turn to mush, kind of a thing?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Mush is a good word.
Okay. Are your dreams in color?
I really couldn't tell you. I think they are in color.
Okay.
I couldn't even think of a dream right now.
That's interesting to me that you can't tell if they're in color, because I can't either. I can't tell if my dreams are in color, but most people can. Like most people, it's like so real. And it sounds to me like it's a little more mysterious for you. Is that right?
I would say mysterious, or it's like poof, and it's right there, and then it's gone.
So when it's there, how vivid and detailed is it?
So when I have a really strong, vivid dream that will end up waking me up and I have to tell someone about it, those are vivid, and those are like I can remember, but I have to tell someone about it or I forget about it. And those are very, very random. I probably maybe one every other month I will have one of those, if that.
Are your dreams in first person or third person?
Again,
Can you even tell?
I got nothing.
Can you experience all five senses in your dreams?
No. I can hear stuff sometimes, but I think it's mostly visual.
When you're dreaming, do you know you're dreaming?
No.
All right, we're going to talk about memory real quick. If you want to recall a memory, can you see it in your mind?
Yes, I can recall something in my mind for a second or so.
The visualization of your memories are pretty fleeting. They show up and then they disappear.
Correct.
So does it feel like you're reliving the memory?
I would say reliving the memory, or trying to relive the memory, but I don't want to relive the memory. But those keep coming up.
How would you describe how your mind stores information?
It's weird because I look at it like a filing cabinet and just kind of like puts it into like date order, and then just like we got a certain date and it hits the delete button once it reaches. All right, it reached this date and we delete everything from this delete date on. You ask me about my childhood and I'm like, yeah, I remember what happened. I remember I was a child, but I don't remember because I got past that date and I'm like, I remember a few things that happened, but I don't remember where we went, what we did on this vacation. But 4 vacations ago that we did as a family here, we haven't reached that date yet in that filing cabinet, if that makes any sense.
So do you consciously set the date, or is it just random?
I think it's random. It's a random date. It's a moving date.
Okay. So if there's anything that you're like, I don't want to forget this, like this is important, can you put that like in a separate area so that so that it's safe from being deleted.
I hope so. So I tell you right now, there is stuff that is in a non-deleted area because it is such a traumatic event, and such as things that have happened to me while I was in the military. And those, like, I've gone past that date line, right? Like I said, but I've had such a traumatic event that I have to go and it still comes up. And so I'm like, well, wait a second. I've gone past that date line. Like I told you, I keep forgetting about things in the past since then. But why am I still remembering about this thing that has happened to me in the military? Because it's a traumatic event.
So can you search your mind?
Yes.
What is that like?
It feels like a Rolodex to me. Rolodex, trying to find the A, B, C, D. That's what it feels like to me. Like I'm searching through a Rolodex. Okay, this just like groups into that category, but I don't like actually put it into that category in my mind. It just like, okay, it just dumps into that category.
So can you search by category?
No.
So if you were to try and give a general description of how your mind works, how would you describe it?
That is a really, really good question. I really don't know how my mind works. You know, listening to your podcasts and listening to your, not just your podcast, but all of these different information on how brains work and how sleep affects the brain, and how I'm affected by just everything. It's amazing how my brain works and how everyone else's brain works in conjunction with how, we communicate with each other. And I don't know if I answered the question, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how my brain is.
Yeah.
It's a jumbled mess, I think.
Right. Just from talking to you, it was really hard for me to pin it down and figure it out. So it does seem
my brain is a jumbled mess, I think. You can say my brain is a jumbled mess.
And at the same time, it's a masterpiece.
Right. I say that I am a jack of all trade, but a master of none.
Yeah. And your mind kind of feels the same way a little bit. Yeah.
It does. It feels the same way. Like I don't know which way and which direction to go sometimes, but it gets there at the end.
All right. I like it. All right. That's it. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
It was great chatting with you, and I actually learned a lot. When I find out about myself, I can figure out how I react to other people, and that's what makes it amazing. It's interesting learning more about how the brain works. It's so interesting even now talking to my kids, because they are actually in college right now doing psychology. So interesting to discuss the differences of how people talk to each other, of how people interact with each other, because they're in psychology and they're like, okay, no, you have to talk to people this way. And I'm like, so maybe out of all of those individuals, someone can fix me.
You don't need fixing, man. I think it's right. I talk to so many people who think that, like, oh, I'm a mess, or I don't see it that way. I see everybody as beautifully unique, and I think it's perfection. I love that we're all so different, and that's why I do this, because I love hearing the stories. I love hearing, it never fails. I ask a question I think I'm going to know the answer to, and then they're off somewhere that I never expected. And I just love that about it. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, follow, and engage with us, and share it with your friends and family as we continue to explore this fascinating subject. For additional information about this episode or Shane's Brain, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Discovering Your Mind podcast. You are beautifully unique.